Before being a Dragon Ball fan, I grew up with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and right now on Verve, you can watch the Japanese original series Kyoto Sentai Ju Ranger, not to mention Dai Ranger and Kaku Ranger, which were adapted into seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Power Rangers. And I'm telling you right now, it's very different but very awesome. Check it out on Verve. Try it for free. vrv.co/geekdom. So I saw Shazam tonight, aka the real Captain Marvel, the latest film in the DC Cinematic Universe, or the DC Expanded Universe, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, let's talk about Shazam. Well, first and foremost, the film is directed by David F. Sandberg, and I've done a lot of reviews on his movies lately. He did a little film called Lights Out, which was originally a very short film, and he got picked up by James Wan to do an actual full-length movie. And then he did Annabelle Creation, which was a good movie. Even though Annabelle, the first Conjuring prequel, was not that good, Creation was good. And now he's back with a way bigger budget and a way bigger, I guess, character in Captain Marvel. Not the Marvel one, but Shazam, the DC version. So people have been saying that this is the best DCEU movie. Now, in my opinion, the best DCEU movies so far have been Wonder Woman and Aquaman. And I feel like this film, I don't know if it's better than those movies. If you think it's better, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it is without question up there. I think I liked I keep calling it that, Shazam. It's Captain Marvel, but Shazam. I think I liked Shazam more than Aquaman, but probably not as much as Wonder Woman. Even though the villain in Wonder Woman, Ares or whatever, wound up being a bit underwhelming, I think the movie had a lot more heart. And this movie had heart too, but this movie was pretty much like the Thor Ragnarok of the DCEU. Lots of comedy. Actually, it's also more like Guardians of the Galaxy. They had Queen songs in the movie. It was kind of a unique film in that from the beginning, it just threw you into the backstory. It didn't really build up much outside of that. But then we get into the actual story, which is a bit formulaic because so many of these superhero movies come out and they're all kind of similar when it comes to that. What made this movie different was the tone, because this movie kind of does what Kick-Ass did very well, and that is paint a realistic picture of what would happen if you're a kid, if you're a 14, 15-year-old kid, and you get granted these amazing powers to where you're pretty much close to being a god. I mean, you're on Superman's level, when it comes to those kind of powers. And the movie, I think, handles it really, really well. Billy Batson, whichever portrayal you like more, whether it be young Billy Batson, Asher Angel, or Zachary Levi, whichever one you like more, is irrelevant because they both did a great job. And I feel like the whole story behind the powers is the spelling of the word Shazam. Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Achilles, Zeus, Mercury, it spells Shazam or whatever. And it, that's really what the movie does effectively, is that it felt like I would probably do the same thing if I got superhero powers, especially if I was 15. And I think the movie does a great job. Now, the villain of the film, I feel, is a tiny bit underwhelming, in my opinion, which, again, that was very similar to the issue that Wonder Woman had. A lot of these comic book movies tend to have issues with compelling villains. Luckily, the MCU has fixed that lately with people like, Killmonger and Thanos. But in the DCEU, it hasn't really been too great. I mean, we've got Steppenwolf, which was a joke in Justice League. And then in Batman v Superman, we had that terrible CGI, Doomsday. Here, it's an improvement from that, but it's still a bit one-dimensional and kind of, I don't know, just not a very interesting character, if you ask me. But the movie was very much comic booky, and let me tell you something right now. The mid-credit scene is, the build-up for the future is totally like a nerdy, like if you know Captain Marvel, the DC version, if you know Shazam, when you see the mid-credit scene, you're going to see something that you'll recognize right away. I mean, at first I couldn't tell what it was when I heard the voice. When they actually showed what it was, I was like, oh, okay, well, look at that. That's the villain of the next Captain Marvel, or the next Shazam. I keep calling it Captain Marvel, but it's Shazam. So the movie is the opposite of Batman v Superman. Now, that does not mean that if you liked Batman v Superman, you're going to hate this movie, but expect it to be the complete opposite, really, of any DCEU movie. It's very lighthearted, very funny. It's very colorful. It felt like a comic book come to life. And like I said, it's like Kick-Ass. It's very colorful. The way that David Sandberg directed it was very interesting because when you watch the movie, you know, like I said, it's lighthearted. It's not that kind of dark and broody kind of tones that Man of Steel, you know, with like the blurriness of it all, or Batman v Superman had. Doesn't have that at all. But David Sandberg, because he is a astute director of horror films, there's a lot of very, very powerful imagery in this movie. The villains of the film, which are the 7 deadly sins, they are in this film portrayed to be these crazy and creepy demonic like beings that are very hard to beat. And it's one of those things where when you're watching it, you can tell that this guy is good at nightmare fuel because there are several scenes in this film. I'm just going to say this. Look, if you have children under the age of like 5 or 6, I probably would not take them to this movie. This movie was clearly made for teenage to adult audiences because the imagery is powerful. Now, obviously, I'm a grown man. I love this kind of stuff, but I can just tell like how creepy and loud those monsters are. And I did watch it in IMAX, so it probably resonated better in IMAX. You know, it's one of those things where I can't imagine kids not being freaked out by this movie, especially very little kids. So even though the movie is kind of made, I guess, for kids because it's a kid becoming a superhero, you know, it's definitely not one that little kids should go see. But if you're above the age of like 5, 6, maybe even like 7 or 8, or if you got kids that are, I mean, obviously if you're that young, you're probably not watching this review, but if you got kids that are that young, I would wait for them to be a little bit older to go see it. Now, if you're an adult, have a blast. The movie is very funny. There's a lot of really hilarious laugh out loud moments. There's some jokes that fell off a cliff, I will say that, but it really is you know, a very kind of laugh out loud film. And the thing about the movie that's weird is, you know, they introduced Freddie Freeman early in the film. And for those who don't know, that's the kid that has like the bad legs, the disabled kid. And I gotta be honest, when they first introduced the kid, and in the first kind of act of the film, I thought he was kind of cringy. Like I thought he was kind of an annoying character. But as the movie progressed, like he kind of became more likable and you got to learn more about him. And the same thing goes for Billy Batson. Billy Batson in this movie is kind of a prick at some points, but he's also very likable, especially when his character arc pays off later on. Now, there is a very, very cool, and I don't really want to tell you because it's a spoiler, but close to the end of the film, there is a very interesting, I don't want to say twist, but it is a moment that I was not expecting, not in the trailer, involving Captain Marvel's family. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to spoil it, because if you know, you know, and if you don't know, you don't know, but I really enjoyed that scene, and I was marking out because I didn't think they would actually do it, but they did do it. So Shazam really did do a lot for, you know, for what it was. Overall, I enjoyed the film. I thought it had a great soundtrack as well. I thought it was very different. It was definitely a completely different movie than anything we've seen in the DC universe. Completely different. Just pure comedy. And I think if they do a sequel, I mean, like I said, that post-credit scene, that next villain, it's very, I don't want to spoil it, but it's very, if you're a fan, you'll get it, but if you're not a fan, you might be a little confused. Oh, that's wacky, that's unusual. It is wacky and unusual, but if you know, you know. So there you go. But overall, like, you know, I enjoyed the movie. Go see Shazam. It's one that, it's not the, I don't know if it's the best DCU movie. I still put Wonder Woman slightly ahead of this, even though I have to watch this again. But it is worth your time, and even though a lot of folks want to go see Endgame, I think this is a good little like appetizer before Endgame comes out. You know, I think it is, and I'm excited because if they're letting these directors change the direction of the DCU, I don't want it to be a copy of the MCU. I don't want that. But I do want it to make different kinds of movies. That whole dark thing, like I said, this is the exact opposite of Batman v Superman. And there's also a lot of self-referential humor in this movie too. A lot of times in this film, they make fun of themselves. They make fun of the DC. This movie takes place inside the DCEU, but it makes fun of the DCEU. It makes fun of Superman and Batman and even Aquaman. Like, they all get made fun of in the movie, but not in a, you know, in a playful way, not in a you know, taking a shot at them way like Deadpool did. Even though Deadpool was also playful, it's not Like, you're not supposed to take it that seriously, and you're just not. But there are a couple of scenes, I should mention this, there are a couple of scenes besides just the ones that I mentioned with the Seven Deadly Sins, with, again, not trying to spoil it, but it's with a character that something happens to a character through a window, and it happened so fast, and it was so loud and effective, it was like, whoa, like, it caught me off guard. I was watching a movie with Hale Zeon, and he also was caught off guard at this. It was like out of nowhere it happened, and it was freaking cool. They were trying to build up the villain, but again, I never really bought the villain that much because I just felt like it was, not a very strong villain, even though it's played by Mark Strong, ironically enough, but one that is a decent origin story villain. But again, I do feel like his boys, the Seven Deadly Sins, they are terrifying, and they made them pretty damn serious, But that being said, I really enjoyed this movie. Go see Shazam. I think y'all will like it too. Expect something different. Expect not every joke to hit, but it certainly is a step in the right direction. Way better than Man of Steel, in my opinion. I think it's better than Man of Steel. And it has a nice little like sky fight like Man of Steel, but it wasn't that destructive. It wasn't crazy like that one. Way less drab than BVS. Way better edited than Justice League, and just an overall better time than most of the DC movies. Like I said, Wonder Woman and Aquaman are up there. This one's right up there too. Let me know in the comments which one you like more. And if you're going to talk about spoilers, again, avoid the comment section if you don't want to be spoiled, because there probably will be spoilers there. But let me know what you think in the comments of this film. If you saw it already, what you think. And we'll talk soon. Thanks for watching. And I will have a review for Pet Sematary up on the channel very soon, because I also saw that movie tonight. So look forward to that. Love you guys, and I will catch you in the next one.